This is shocking. These men discovered something out of the ordinary in the Great Lakes. The deep waters of these gigantic lakes were hiding something extremely terrifying. From ghost ships to ancient structures, today you will learn about each of these discoveries. Curious? Join us and let's go. Number 19. The mysterious epidemic. In July 2021, residents of Lake Orion in Oakland County, Michigan, woke up to a scene worthy of an apocalyptic movie. Hundreds of dead carp, between 250 and 500 fish, floated on the surface of the water. The Michigan Department of Natural Resources quickly took action, collecting samples for analysis at Michigan State University's Aquatic Animal Health Lab. Interestingly, only one species of fish was affected, which pointed to a specific pathogen rather than widespread pollution. Officials assured that the virus posed no risk to humans or other animals, but the image of hundreds of floating fish still haunts those who passed by that day. Number 18. The sunken cemetery. At the bottom of Lake Van in Turkey, there is an entire underwater city. And it's not just any city. It has streets, buildings, and even a complete cemetery. This lake, the largest saltwater lake in the world, holds much more than ancient ruins. Locals speak of a mysterious creature known as the Lake Van monster. According to ancient Armenian legends, there are water dragons called vaps in the depths. In 1889, a man disappeared into the lake, supposedly pulled by one of these monsters. A scientific expedition was sent to investigate, but found nothing. However, in 1997, someone came forward with a somewhat suspicious video of the supposed monster. Number 17. The Submerged Indian City. Archaeologists have discovered the remains of an ancient Native American city at the bottom of Lake Superior, dating back at least 5,000 years. The excavations have revealed complex housing structures, incredibly preserved stone tools, and even sophisticated irrigation systems for the time. Most impressively, the city appears to have been abandoned quickly, possibly due to a sudden climate change. It's like a Pompeii on the water, offering a unique glimpse into pre-Columbian civilizations. I have a question for you. First, I'd like to tell you that it's possible to keep up with the biggest curiosities of our world every day. But for that, you need to be subscribed to our channel. So, have you subscribed yet? If not, take the opportunity to subscribe now. Now that you've done that, let's go. Number 16. The Lake of Monsters. And speaking of aquatic monsters, how could we not mention Nessie? In 2019, scientists from New Zealand decided to unravel the mystery of Loch Ness in a different way. By analyzing the DNA in the lake's waters, they didn't find any traces of dinosaurs or giant Greenland sharks, but they did discover something curious. A huge amount of eel DNA. How big were these eels? Well, DNA doesn't tell us that, so who knows? Maybe Nessie is real, just not in the way we imagined. Number 15. Aircraft of World War II. The bottom of the Great Lakes has become a graveyard of World War II military aircraft. More than 200 combat aircraft lie buried deep in these waters, each telling a unique story of training and sacrifice. Lake Michigan, in particular, gained surprising strategic importance during the conflict. The U.S. Navy converted 2 steamships into makeshift aircraft carriers to train pilots. The aviators practiced landings and takeoffs in challenging conditions, preparing for missions in the Pacific and Europe. The lake waters offered weather conditions similar to what they would encounter in real combat. Many of these aircraft, including the famous F-4U Corsair fighters, ended up at the bottom of the lake after crashes during training. Some of these planes were recovered in surprisingly good condition thanks to the cold, fresh waters that help preserve the metal. Number 14. The Giant of the Deep. An impressive find has surprised everyone on the shores of Lake Washington, near Log Boom Park in Kenmore. A gigantic white sturgeon washed up dead on the beach, but its size left everyone speechless. The fish was over 8 feet long and weighed between 300 and 400 pounds. Experts estimate that this true aquatic monster was between 60 and 80 years old. But the most incredible thing is that this was not even the largest specimen ever seen. Some sturgeons can exceed 10 feet in length and weigh more than 1,000 pounds. These giants of the deep are true living dinosaurs that still swim in the lakes of North America. Number 13. Underwater car graveyard. On the shores of St. Joseph, Michigan, lies one of the most unusual car graveyards in the world. In the late 1960s, residents faced a serious erosion problem that threatened their homes. Their solution perfectly reflects the mindset of the time. More than 230 old cars were dumped on the lakeshore to create a makeshift barrier against the waves. This desperate attempt to contain erosion didn't stop with cars. Washing machines, dryers, and even beds were added to the bizarre wall. During low water periods, this monument to the questionable ingenuity of the 1960s can still be seen, serving as a reminder of the dubious environmental practices of the past. The makeshift barrier eventually became part of the underwater landscape of Lake Michigan, although it is now recognized as a potential environmental disaster, with the risk of chemicals and heavy metals leaking into the water. Number 12. The Lake Erie Ghost Town. In 2015, divers found something that looked like a movie set, an entire town under Lake Erie. It was Port Royal, a 19th century port town that was swallowed up by the water when the lake level rose. It had houses, shops, a hotel, and even a mill. The craziest part was that you could see the streets still paved with cobblestones, and the foundations of the buildings were intact. The town became a time capsule that shows exactly what life was like on the Great Lakes 200 years ago. Number 11. Unexpected visitor at the Park Lake. New York has seen it all, but an alligator in Prospect Park Lake in February 2023 was too much even for the city's standards. The 4-foot-long reptile was found in a lethargic state due to the cold. After all, who said alligators were made for snow? The story behind this unusual visitor is a classic case of an abandoned exotic pet. The animal grew larger than its owner expected, surprise, and ended up being dumped in the lake. To make matters worse, veterinarians even discovered a drain plug in the animal's digestive system. After the rescue, they took the alligator to the Bronx Zoo, but unfortunately, despite all the treatment, the animal did not survive and died in April 2023. Number 10. The sunken forest of Lake Huron. It sounds like a load of crap, but it's true. Researchers found a 10,000-year-old forest beneath Lake Huron in 2009. Scientists discovered perfectly preserved tree trunks, branches, and even pine cones 120 feet underground. This forest existed when the water level was much lower, during the last ice age. The most incredible thing? They found marks from axes and other tools, proving that ancient indigenous groups lived and hunted in this area when it was still dry land. It's like an underwater Pompeii, only much older. Number 9. The mystery of the USS Kamloops. In December 1927, the cargo ship USS Kamloops disappeared in the icy waters of Lake Superior with 22 people on board. The ship was carrying a wide range of cargo from construction materials to shoes and food. After stopping in Courtright, Ontario, to load salt, it encountered a terrible winter storm. The plight of the crew became even more disturbing when, a year later, a bottle with a message was found. Alice Bettridge, a young crew member, wrote her last words, "I am the last survivor. Dying of cold and hunger on Isle Royale, Lake Superior. I only want my parents to know my fate." The ship remained lost for decades until its recent discovery, revealing a perfectly preserved time capsule at the bottom of the lake. Number 8. The Lake Michigan meteorite. In 2017, astronomers saw a fireball streak across the sky and fall into Lake Michigan. But that's not the end of the story. A team from NASA, along with local scientists, managed to find pieces of the meteorite at the bottom of the lake. Using submarines with special magnets, they recovered several fragments that were over 4.5 billion years old, older than planet Earth itself. The pieces were so well preserved that they helped us better understand what the solar system was like when it was forming. Number 7. The perfectly preserved shipwreck. Deep in the depths of Lake Superior, marine archaeologists have made an extraordinary discovery. The Atlanta, a sailing ship built in 1891, lies at the bottom of the lake in a state of remarkable preservation. During a violent storm the same year it was built, the ship lost connection with the tugboat that was guiding it, leaving it adrift without sails. The crew abandoned ship and endured agonizing hours in a lifeboat. Only 2 of the 7 crew members survived. In 2021, a sonar mapping expedition located the remains of the Atlanta, approximately 35 miles off Deer Park, Michigan. The icy waters of the lake have served as a natural time capsule, preserving even the most delicate details of the vessel. The name Atlanta can still be clearly read on the ship's stern, as if it had been painted yesterday. Number 6. Formation of mysterious stones. At the bottom of Lake Michigan, a discovery has shaken the scientific community. Using remote sensing technology in the Grand Traverse Bay Area, marine archaeologists have found something extraordinary at a depth of 40 feet. A huge block of stone with prehistoric engravings jumped out at the researchers. The carved image clearly depicted a mastodon, a close relative of the mammoth. But that's not all. Surrounding this ancient rock, other stones formed a perfect circle, resembling an underwater version of Stonehenge. Among the wreckage of old cars and remains of shipwrecks from the Civil War, this megalithic structure has remained hidden for thousands of years. Scientists are intrigued by the purpose of this underwater construction, which could completely change our understanding of the ancient civilizations of North America. Number 5. German U-boot in the deep. A fascinating piece of military history lies at the bottom of Lake Michigan. A German submarine from World War I, the U-97, delivered to the United States as war reparations in 1919, met an unusual fate. The U.S. Navy sailed the submarine through the St. Lawrence Seaway to the Great Lakes, where it served as a propaganda tool to sell war bonds and recruit new sailors. After months of promotional touring American ports, mechanical problems began to surface. During a naval exercise in June 1921, the submarine was used as a training target and eventually sank in the waters of Lake Michigan. The exact location of the wreck remained a mystery for decades, until a group of researchers claimed to have found the wreckage in 1992, although the discovery has never been officially confirmed. Number 4. The Lake of Mysteries. The scorching summer of 2022 has seen the water levels of Lake Mead in Nevada drop so low that dark secrets have begun to emerge. A World War II boat surfaced first, but that was just the beginning. What followed was like a film noir. Multiple sets of human remains were discovered, including one inside a barrel. Investigators quickly connected the dots. The area has a history of organized crime. With the water level at its lowest point since 1937, authorities were on high alert for more macabre discoveries. There have been a few false alarms involving plastic skeletons and animal bones, but the story of Lake Mead has proven that some waters hold much darker secrets than we imagine. Number 3. The Lost Battleship of Lake Ontario. In 2008, treasure hunters found the HMS Ontario, a British warship that sank in 1780. The ship was found almost intact at a depth of 500 feet. The lake's icy, salt-free waters acted like a giant refrigerator, preserving even the window panes and cannons. The ship sank in a violent storm during the American Revolutionary War, taking 130 people with it. Today, it is considered one of the most important discoveries in the maritime history of the Great Lakes. Number 2. The Ancient Canoe. In April 2023, archaeologists made a discovery that changed the history of navigation in North America. A 930-year-old Native American canoe was recovered from Lake Wachall in North Carolina. It all started when some teenagers, swimming near a pier, found what appeared to be just an old log. But these smart youngsters realized there was something different there. They notified the authorities, and a historic rescue operation began. The North Carolina Department of Archaeology worked with the Waccamaw tribe to pull this treasure from the water. The canoe was in an incredible state of preservation, revealing secrets of how native people built their vessels almost 1,000 years ago. Number 1. SS Edmund Fitzgerald. It was a November night in 1975. The giant of the lakes was sailing smoothly when a monstrous storm struck without warning. 10-meter waves swallowed the ship like a toy. Captain McSorley sent his last message: "We're holding on tight." 17 minutes later, the 222-meter ship simply disappeared from radar. No distress call, no floating wreckage, nothing. The 29 crew members disappeared with it. When they found the ship at the bottom of the lake, it was broken in two, as if a gigantic force had bent it in half. The scariest part? The bodies were never found, and divers swear they sometimes hear knocking coming from inside the ship. Every year on the day of the sinking, the local church bell rings 29 times, once for each lost soul. And what's more, the ship's navigation instruments were found showing the exact time of the disaster, as if time had frozen at the bottom of the lake. And since you enjoy underwater discoveries, how about finding out what these men found under the ice in Antarctica? Take advantage now and click on this video that is appearing on the screen because I have selected it especially for you. Well, that's it, and until next time, Curious One.